I've been with my husband for 9 years and I entered the relationship with a toddler son, now a tween. Up until last summer, we were very involved with my husband's family, but that changed after my husband's brother-in-law slapped my son across the face and the entire family defended my brother-in-law. So what happened was my son was standing at the sink getting water, and when he turned around, he slammed into brother-in-law, who was standing directly behind him. Brother-in-law had just had surgery on his back a few weeks prior, so my son, running into him, tweaked his back and he immediately struck my son in the face as an impulse reaction and made no effort to apologize. He doubled down and told my son to watch what he was doing next time and joked that he was lucky it wasn't worse. I wanted to punch you, so you're lucky it was just a slap. My son was not only hurt by the smack but also extremely embarrassed and went out to the car to cry. I lost my crap entirely and so did my husband. I was pregnant during this time and I told my husband at this point that his whole family was dead to me and they were not meeting our baby. At that time he agreed with me. We had our baby a couple of months ago and I've stood my ground. His family is not meeting our baby. His entire family sided with brother-in-law smacking my son across the face, and they have no business being around my son or my newborn. They can all get screwed. They've reached out several times expecting us to apologize for causing a scene and have told us to get over brother-in-law smacking my son, and again, no apologies have been made. But my husband's been acting super weird for about 2 weeks. He was barely speaking to me, barely texting me when he's at work like he usually does, etc. I finally asked him what was wrong and he got angry and said somewhat defensively, "You've written off my entire family, but I'm expected to smile and play nice to your family. We've literally seen my family once since having the baby." I reminded him of our agreement and now he's backpedaling, saying, "You made that decision, not me." After turning the whole thing on me and making it out like I was wrong and repeatedly saying he didn't care how I felt about it because right now it's about how he feels, he said that I'm making him depressed. At which point I said I didn't give a crap if it was making him depressed and his family wasn't meeting the baby. He says I'm an idiot for disregarding his valid feelings. Edit, the police were called when it happened. They actually called the cops on my husband because when he flipped out, he intimidated them. So a report was made and we did file trying to get brother-in-law charged for smacking my son, but ultimately the cops did nothing because by the time they showed up, 45 minutes later, there was no visible mark on my son's face anymore. So brother-in-law slapped a child over an accident, threatened further violence, but then cried and called the cop when an adult yelled at him. What a gutless coward. Not the idiot. But I have a feeling there's a feeling of brother-in-law slapped your son and not husband's son. Don't let this family near either of your children. Also, I wonder if brother-in-law is married to the golden child, given that they called the cops on OB's husband. You have a husband problem. No apologies, no meeting the baby. But don't be surprised if your husband sends his family pics of the baby. He's already caving. You can stop your older child from seeing any of them, but your husband will take the baby over, especially if you divorce, and the next time an incident happens, and it will, take pictures immediately. He is already sharing pics and details of the baby. He has no intention of being no contact. I'm so sorry, but you have a very hard decision to make. He doesn't seem to be strong enough to maintain no contact or push back on his abusive and disgusting family. Your husband is also a freaking man baby, pouting for 2 weeks. Man the heck up, dude. He needs a backbone and a clue. It is valid that he misses his family. What happened isn't fair for any reason or okay, but expecting him to never talk to his family for the rest of his life isn't reasonable or likely. You can wish it all you want, but it'll just lead to a divorce when he gets 50-50 custody and your newborn now stays the night at grandma's. He likely only really cares about his mom. Why don't you start with mother-in-law visiting your home and supervising? As soon as she starts talking about the slap, if she does, it's time to leave, or make the boundaries clear that visitations only continue if boundaries are respected. This is probably the safest way out of this situation where you stay together, babies stay safe, and everyone has their feelings heard. My ex and I have a toddler. She's amazing and loves her daddy. It was his birthday on Monday, so I let my daughter grab some bits for him. There's a football stall in our local shopping centre. They had squeezy balls for each team. My daughter knows that her dad loves football and also the colour blue, so she picked out a blue one for him. I knew it wasn't his team, but there was nothing on the actual ball. It just said the team on the wrapper. She bought it, we left, and everything got wrapped up. We were with him when he opened them. His face fell and he dropped the ball like it burned him when he opened it. His mom gave him the evil eyes, so he did the clearly fake "thank you," then our daughter was disinterested. He was off with me the whole day and last night called me a witch for doing that to him. I asked what he meant. He said I knew he hated that team. I didn't. I used to ignore his football rants, and that he thinks it's crappy that I used our daughter as an excuse to upset him. I explained that she picked it out, and he claimed I should have corrected her because he hated the gift. I called him a child. His mom has since texted me apologizing, but in an "even though it's your fault" way. She's usually on my side, so now I'm half thinking it's my fault somehow. I didn't know he didn't support that team, and my daughter could have been corrected easily, so I probably should have done it anyway. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your toddler just wanted a football in a colour that she knew Daddy liked. Daddy has anger management problems if he can't grin and bear it for a toddler. Your toddler is more mature than Daddy. You are the idiot. As much as I think it's pathetic to care about whether a ball that is a present from your daughter represents the team you like or not, I think this is really about you knowingly letting your daughter choose that ball. I don't believe for a second that you didn't realise how this would play out, with him realising this was your dig at him as you knew his team and how rabid a supporter he is. You knew it would get under his skin. You risked ruining the moment that was your innocent daughter wanting to make her father happy. And that was wrong even just because it could have gone far worse and ended up with your daughter being really upset thinking that her father was rejecting her. You used her to dig at your ex. I hope you grow from this. It was immature and you will probably realise it when you get older. I'm mostly a stay-at-home mom of 2 kids, an infant and a toddler. I work 2 days a week at most, usually only 1. Most of the time I'm home with them. My husband is a blue-collar worker in construction. He works long days, his job is pretty physical, and he works really hard. He gets up at 5 a.m. and gets home by 6:30. My days are usually around the same, give or take an extra hour in the morning. Every single day my husband gets home, he wants to go to the bathroom and take a shower the second he gets in the driveway. This would be one thing if he was quick, but he takes at least 25 minutes on the toilet and 25-minute showers, and I cannot start dinner with the kids hanging off my legs. They just scream and cry every single time. I've started to ask him to wait until they go to bed, given I really only have a 2-hour window to get dinner ready, eat, clean up the dishes, clean up their chairs, get them ready for bed, get them baths, etc. He complied at first, but now he's telling me it's unfair to ask him to sit in dirty clothes and be a sweaty mess for 2 hours until they get to bed. I understand it's uncomfortable, but, I've just been alone with the kids for 13 hours straight. Every day I have stuff I still need to get done too. My kids are in their tantrum phase as well, which has been hard. He got snippy with me today and said I was being incredibly selfish when I asked him to wait. I said I felt he was being selfish by running to the bathroom for almost an hour every time he got home when he knew I had stuff to get done too. So, am I the idiot here, or is he? He does need decompression time, just like you'd be feeling overstimulated and touched out from the kids. He's going to have a whole range of stuff to work through after work mentally. Additionally, showering and changing is a blessed relief after working in construction. The dirt, grime and sweat are just one more thing adding to sensory overload at this point. You are the idiot. Your husband has the right to clean himself and dress when he wants. Getting dinner cooked and children fed will take more than 30 minutes every day. If you don't understand how gross and uncomfortable he is when he arrives home, then you've never worked a day that hard. Do just put in over a 12-hour shift of real labour. Yes, he works much, much harder than you do as a stay-at-home mom every day. This wouldn't even be a conversation in my house. I'm taking a damn shower. Suggestion: why not bathe your kids before your husband comes home? For all those suggesting the kids have a bath before dinner, it's just not really feasible. 1, kids are unbelievably messy eaters. You cannot fathom it until you're watching it. And 2, if they've learned to associate bath with being right before bed, which I assume they have if this routine has been set in place since the eldest was a baby, then it's fairly disruptive to their routine and not fair to make them change it. You're not the idiot. I would say if it's absolutely essential to him that he shower on arrival, then fine, but a 15-minute maximum, I still think it's not unreasonable for him to wait. It isn't going to kill him, and let's be honest, with 2 toddlers, you're probably sweaty, smell like crap, and have weird substances on you you'd love to wash off too. My son and his cousins are close, so my sister and I have family get-togethers often. We take turns hosting. I should say now that my sister and I have incredibly different parenting styles. My husband and I only decided to have one child so we could pour all of our love and time into raising him. My sister has 5 kids and has the same authoritarian parenting style our parents did. This past weekend, my sister had us over for a barbecue. They made hot dogs for the kids and steak for the adults. Growing up, our parents always did stuff like that. They ate nicer food than we did and got to go places that we didn't. It made some of us feel bad, so I've never done that to my son. It's important to me that he knows he's just as worthy of nice things, good meals, etc. Usually he likes the kid food my sister makes, so it's not an issue, but he hates hot dogs. He took one bite of it and then sat silently while everyone else ate. He's a nice boy, so he didn't want to raise a fuss and complain about hating hot dogs. I didn't want him to go hungry, so I just grabbed our plates and switched them. He nodded at me and we both just carried on eating without saying anything. My sister's first grader pointed it out, raised a fuss, and said she wanted steak too. Pretty soon all of her kids were mad and she kind of went off on me. She told me it was my job to settle them down since it was my fault they were all riled up. I told her she could trade food with them to make things fair. Long story short, it was a whole ordeal. I just didn't want my son to go hungry while everyone else ate. He's generally not that picky of an eater, but he just hates hot dogs. I wouldn't force myself to eat something I hate either. Am I the idiot for trading? Not the idiot. Neither of you even made a fuss. Your son hates hot dogs, and you switch plates with him without comment. Like, what's the issue here? Your sister sounds like a piece of work. Next time she'll make the same dish for everyone. Sister should probably try parenting her kids instead of trying to parent OP. She's upset because OP violated the terms of parole she expects children to live under. The sister sounds like she'll wonder why not one of her kids will speak to her as she reaches old age. Steak is a lot more expensive than hot dogs. Sister may not be able to afford to feed 6 kids steak in addition to however many adults there were. It's not your fault her kids got riled up, but it wasn't polite to switch the plates. You guys are raising your kids differently, which is fine, but when she's hosting, that's the way it is. She should have told her kids to pipe down, and you should not have switched plates. It would have been okay if you'd subtly given him a few bites later. I disagree. If she can't afford to feed her kids steaks, then she shouldn't be eating steak around them and shouldn't be hosting so often. If your sister wants to continue hosting get-togethers, she needs to either provide something kid-friendly that your son will be comfortable eating or just be an adult and let people eat what they want. This past weekend, my sister-in-law, Susie, 24 female, came over to visit my wife, 30, and me, 34 male, for dinner and drinks. Susie had recently broken up with her boyfriend of 2 years, and it seemed like the sole purpose of her visit was to vent about him. No matter how often my wife or I tried to change the subject or talk about something else, Susie would find a way to bring it back to her relationship and her ex-boyfriend. After about an hour of hearing about Susie's ex, I left the room and wandered off to find something else to occupy my time. But shortly after that, my wife came and asked me if I could start dinner earlier than planned because she was getting hungry. We have a pretty large island counter in our kitchen, and Susie and my wife sat there drinking wine while I was cooking. Again, every word out of Susie's mouth was about her ex. And it wasn't just normal bad-mouthing. She was using a bunch of clinical and therapy buzzwords like narcissist, gaslighting, toxic, disregarding boundaries, etc. I tried to change the topic multiple times, but to no avail. I tried turning on music to drown out Susie's psychobabble, but she just talked over it. I finally told them that maybe they would be more comfortable on the couch instead of on bar stools, but Susie insisted she wanted to watch me cook, even though she hadn't paid any attention to anything other than her wine glass or ex-boyfriend. At one point, Susie described something her ex had done and asked me if it sounded like something a narcissist would do. I told her I wouldn't know because I'm not a psychologist, and I don't think I've ever really interacted with a narcissist. She insisted on me giving my opinion, and I deflected again. After she insisted a third time, I asked her in a very sharp tone, "Do you have a degree in psychology, Susie? Are you a therapist? Or are you just regurgitating terms you heard on TikTok? Just call your ex an idiot and move on, or get out of my kitchen, my God." My wife immediately scolded me, and Susie just sat there for a second before calling me an idiot and walking away, followed quickly by my wife. I had to finish cooking so I couldn't go after them, Eventually, my wife returned and told me that Susie had gotten an Uber home because she no longer felt welcome for dinner because of what I did. I told her that I'd politely tried to redirect the conversation multiple times and even gently asked them both to leave the room so I could cook, but Susie insisted on goading me about my opinion on something that I care zero about. My wife told me I should have just humoured Susie because she was going through a breakup and needed a safe place to vent. I told her that there's a line between venting and just spewing therapy buzzwords, and Susie was definitely way to one side of the line. I told her I tried to remove myself from the conversation multiple times, but Susie kept insisting. My wife told me I should have just humoured her. Forget that. If your wife wants to take on that role of confidant and lend an ear, fine, but she can't force you to also listen to Susie vent for hours on end. That's not a reasonable ask. Your wife needs to learn to read the room and not rope you into things you don't want to be a part of. I'm going with not the idiot, not your circus, not your monkeys. I disagree, you are the idiot. A family member is going through an emotional time and looking to vent, and you swear at her, insult her, and make her feel unwelcome. You're in your 30s, you should know how to be patient and act like an adult. I care zero about what she was talking about. What, so you get a free pass to be a jerk? She's your guest. You and your wife invited her. Sometimes guests are boring or annoying or not entertaining the messages she was getting and sending from other guys. My wife said she laid into Susie pretty hard for lying to us by leaving out a pretty big bit of information. My wife ended up apologizing to me for how Susie acted, and I apologized to my wife for my reaction as well. Needless to say, I don't think Susie will be coming over for dinner again anytime soon.